I've been married to Ryan for 11 years. We have two kids, Lily, 9, and Mason, 6, and up until a few weeks ago, I would have told you we were solid. Not perfect, but solid. We had our routines, our small arguments, our inside jokes. We survived the baby years, job losses, family drama, and we always found our way back to each other. Or so I thought. And then there's my best friend Daniel. We've known each other since college. I used to joke that if we were both single at 40, we'd marry each other. He laughed. I laughed. It was always a joke. He was the guy I called when Ryan forgot our anniversary, or when I needed help lifting something heavy, or when I just didn't want to be alone in my head. He was always around, always respectful of my marriage. Until one night he wasn't. It started subtly. A few months ago, I noticed Ryan was distant, more than usual. He started locking his phone, turning off notifications. He claimed he was stressed at work, but even his stress had a rhythm I knew by heart, and this wasn't it. The way he'd smile at his phone, the quiet way he moved through the house, the way he'd suddenly have work drinks 2 nights a week. I asked. Of course I asked. He said, "You're being paranoid." I wasn't, but I wanted to believe I was. Last Friday, Daniel asked me to come over. He didn't sound like himself. "Can you come by? Alone?" he said, voice tight. "Is everything okay?" I asked, immediately thinking something happened with his mom or his job. "Just, please, and don't be mad." Those words, "don't be mad." I felt the world shift just a little under my feet. When I got there, he didn't speak right away. He just handed me his phone, already opened to a message thread. My heart pounded before I even saw the screen. It was Ryan. And a woman named Erica, a coworker. The texts weren't vague. They were explicit, personal, emotional. From 3 months ago, last month, last week. He told her he loved her, that he missed her, that being with me was like living someone else's life, that I was more like a sister now, that he didn't know how to leave because of the kids. I froze. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. "I'm sorry," Daniel said quietly. "I wasn't sure if I should show you, but I couldn't just let you keep living like this." When I got home that night, Ryan was on the couch watching television, legs up like the world was perfectly fine. I stood in front of him, shaking. "How long?" I asked. He muted the television. "How long what?" I threw my phone at him. I had forwarded every screenshot to myself. He stared at the screen, then looked at me, and in that moment, I knew. Knew it wasn't a one-time mistake. Knew it was real. Ongoing. Ugly. He didn't deny it. "I'm sorry," he said, but it was hollow. "For the affair? Or for getting caught?" I asked. He didn't answer. I slept in Lily's room that night. She was at a sleepover. Mason was with my sister for the weekend, and I couldn't bear to share a bed with him. I curled up under the soft pink blanket she loved so much, my knees to my chest, staring at the ceiling. My body ached, but not from tiredness, something deeper, like grief lodged in my bones. I replayed the texts again and again. The worst part wasn't the sex talk. It was the connection. He told her things I had begged him to tell me for years. That he felt stuck, unseen, that he wanted out. Yet he stayed. With me. With our children. With this life we built brick by brick, apparently while his heart wandered elsewhere. The next morning, he was in the kitchen making coffee, like it was just another Saturday. "I want to fix this," he said as I walked past him. I laughed. I laughed, that bitter, sharp sound you only make when your heart has been shattered in ways you can't explain. "You want to fix this? You brought her into our home. Into our lives." He blinked. "That was one time." "One time?" I slammed my hand on the counter. "Don't insult me. Don't shrink 7 months into one time." He started crying. Real tears. But I didn't feel sympathy. Not anymore. "You never even told me you were unhappy," I whispered. "You never ask," he said. And just like that, the last sliver of hope inside me turned to ash. When Lily came home the next day, she walked in and looked at me for a long time. "What's wrong?" she asked. She's only 9. But she saw it. She felt it. I knelt down and hugged her, my heart breaking all over again. "Nothing you did, sweetheart," I said. "Mommy and Daddy are just figuring some things out." That night, after I tucked them in, I sat on the edge of the couch and stared into the darkness. I knew what I had to do, not just for me, but for them. I couldn't teach them that this was what love looked like. That betrayal was something you swallowed just to keep the peace. A week later, I filed for divorce. Ryan begged, cried, promised therapy, begged again. I had none of it left in me. I told him I wasn't punishing him, I was freeing both of us. From lies, from pretending, from the slow death of a marriage that had already ended the moment he told someone else he loved them. Daniel checked in every day. He dropped off food, picked up groceries, never pushed, never pried, just showed up, in a way Ryan never had. One night, 2 weeks later, I asked him, "Why did you show me those messages? It must have hurt you too." He looked at me for a long moment. "Because I couldn't keep watching you love someone who didn't see you." The first few nights after Ryan moved out were hauntingly quiet. No footsteps coming up the stairs late from his long shifts. No sighs, no flicker of the bathroom light at 2 a.m. And yet, my body was still tense, like I was bracing for another blow. I thought I'd feel free. I thought I'd feel strong. But mostly, I just felt empty. I stood in the kitchen one night, holding a glass of wine I didn't really want, staring at the photos still on the fridge. Our wedding day. Lily's first steps. Mason in his Halloween costume. So much of my life was tied to a man who wasn't who I thought he was. About a month later, Daniel came by to help with the garage door. It jammed every time it rained, something Ryan always said he'd fix, but never did. He was tightening bolts when I brought him a lemonade. I sat on the step and watched him work in silence for a while. He finally looked up. "You're doing better," he said softly. I nodded. "Some days." There was a long pause. Then he added, "You know, I didn't show you those messages just because of Ryan." I looked up. "What do you mean?" He set his wrench down and sighed. "I've been watching you disappear for years. I didn't want to be the one who showed you that. But I also couldn't keep pretending like you deserved less." His voice cracked just slightly. "I didn't just do it for you to leave him. I did it because I think I've been in love with you for a long time." I didn't say anything. Not that night. Not the next day either. I wasn't ready to fall into someone else's arms. I needed to stand in my own skin first. To trust myself again. To rebuild what Ryan's betrayal had torn down. But I also couldn't lie. Daniel had always been kind. Always steady. Always showing up in quiet, important ways. And his confession didn't feel like pressure. It felt like possibility. One night, Lily crawled into bed beside me. "Mommy," she whispered, "you look happier." I smiled and ran my fingers through her hair. "Thank you, baby. I think I am." She paused. "Is Daniel going to be around more?" I blinked. "Why?" She shrugged. "He makes you smile with your eyes." Out of the mouths of babes. It didn't happen overnight. Months passed. Counseling, custody agreements, holidays spent apart. But I grew. I got stronger. I remembered the girl I used to be, the one who dreamed big and laughed loud. And Daniel? He was patient. We started slow. Just walks. Then dinners. Then a trip to the beach with the kids. And one day, I woke up and realized I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of being alone. Not of being hurt. Because now, I finally knew what I deserved. The divorce papers arrived on a Monday. I remember because it was raining, and the sound of the envelope hitting the porch was louder than it should have been. I stared at them for a while. I didn't cry. I didn't hesitate. I just signed. There wasn't anything left to argue about. Ryan had moved into a condo across town. The kids saw him on weekends. He was still trying to spin a version of the truth that made him the victim. But by then, I didn't need his version anymore. I had my own. I mailed the papers that afternoon and took Lily and Mason out for ice cream. Not to celebrate, but to remind myself that we still had joy and that I had every right to claim it. A few weeks later, Ryan sent me a text. Just one line. "I miss how things used to be." I stared at it for a long time. The words didn't make me angry. They didn't make me nostalgic. They just made me sad. Not for what we lost, but for the version of me who once would have begged him to stay. I didn't reply. Some messages don't deserve answers. It's strange how healing isn't loud. It's not dramatic or sudden. It doesn't happen in one sweeping realization. It's in the way I made coffee one morning and realized I wasn't bracing myself for his mood. It's in how I laughed out loud at a movie, alone, and felt no guilt for enjoying something without him. It's in the softness of Daniel's hand when he helped Lily with her math homework, not to impress, but because he cared. I started noticing those quiet things, and I started believing I deserved them. One evening, I stood in front of the mirror after putting the kids to bed. I looked at my face, the lines around my eyes, the tiredness, the quiet confidence. There was no one behind me, no shadow, no voice criticizing, no lies whispered between kisses. Just me. And for the first time in a long, long while, I liked the woman staring back. She had been broken, but she wasn't bitter. She had been betrayed, but she chose to rebuild. She was alone, and somehow never stronger. A year later, everything is different, and somehow still familiar. The kids are thriving, they laugh more, they ask fewer hard questions, and when they do, I answer with honesty, the kind I used to protect them from, but now realize they need to grow strong. Daniel's still here, not because I needed someone to rescue me, but because he stood quietly beside me while I rescued myself. We're not rushing anything. Some nights we sit in silence, reading. Other times we watch the kids play, sharing glances that say more than words ever could. I don't check phones anymore. I don't shrink myself to fit into someone else's version of love. I don't wonder what I did wrong to make someone betray me. Because I know now, his choices were never about me. They were about him. And I've stopped carrying the weight of someone else's weakness. If you're reading this and you feel what I once felt, that hollow, heavy ache of betrayal, I want you to know something. You are not broken. You are not unlovable. You are not too much or not enough. You are becoming. And even if the road ahead is lonely, you are already farther than you think, because you've chosen truth. You've chosen clarity. You've chosen you. Just like I did. And I promise that's where your real story begins.